told we need to count to 10.
Count to 10?
So because apparently they get a bit cut off. Jeffrey tells us this.
Oh,
He
okay.
watches us, and he said we get cut off at the beginning. So hopefully there's enough
Anyway, the point
wiggle,
is,
enough wiggle from Michael.
we wiggle too much in the beginning, so really
That's all
no
right.
point.
Okay, it must be 10 by now.
Exactly. There we go.
So-
We've got
Hello, welcome to What Have I Just Read with Alison, with Michael, with Malcolm.
And with the jingle. I like this setup. It's very cinematic with one
Yeah.
person closest to the camera. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we read something amazing. In fact, we were all so amazed by it that we started saying amazing things before we'd actually got the chance to switch on what we just read. So we've got, we're reading 2 Samuel 15, 13,
That's right.
which
Yeah.
is real sort of political intrigue, spies, all sorts of stuff.
So we heard yesterday, didn't we, that Absalom had sort of left and had sort of been sort of shaking hands with everyone that came into the city and made himself popular, and then sort of goes off.
We've
to
jumped
Hebron.
a chapter or two.
Yes.
He's announced and declared himself as king.
King.
People have gone to him. And David
He's gonna
seems
follow.
David is doing what David did in the past. He's not directly going to confront Absalom. He's running off into the wilderness.
That's what he did with Saul,
Which
wasn't
is
it?
what he did in
Yeah.
Saul. He's going to his comfort place, if you like, because he knows that's where he no doubt will meet with God. Very interesting as well about the ark.
Yes.
He sends the ark back in to
Yeah.
Jerusalem, doesn't
It's
he?
interesting, that whole
With
thing.
Zadok.
And he sends Zadok in to go and work. And I feel that's setting up all sorts of interesting things.
Oh yeah, well there's the counter,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Well, it's amazing stuff, this. I'm thinking.
Right at the end come.
Right, I'm thinking this is incredible. I can't wait for the next instalment.
It's, and you know why as well? I mean, even at the beginning here, you know, why, you know, everyone's leaving, they're following him, and then he stops at the last house, and everyone goes past him. Why does that happen? Everyone goes past the king. Is it because he's waiting for the last people to leave? It's sort of like he's the leader and he's saying, well, you know, I'll wait till you all
Like
go.
the captain abandoning the ship, you've got to be the last one
You've got to
off.
be the last one off.
Make sure everyone else is
I mean,
left.
I've never really seen that
Before.
before.
I have
But
to
anyway.
say, there is a very good comment. This piece is very rich in all sorts of stuff. And the enduring word, I just write in Acts 2 Samuel, 15, commentary. And I always get this thing from a website called Enduring Word, which actually is excellent. And it's well worth reading on this because all sorts of subtle nuances, all sorts of things. Like in the first paragraph, it says the king, the king, the king, the king. It's repeated several times. The word. The king's officials said to the king, "Your servants are ready to do whatever the Lord, the king, decides." So the king left. Is this idea of emphasising that David is the king, the legitimate king, which is interesting. And there's also all sorts of other interesting nuances here, like he lays 10 concubines, which in this piece commentary sadly also tells us that David had at least 10 concubines, which was essentially a legal mistress, showing us that in fact David was inclined to indulge his passions instead of restraining them in a godly way, which is actually very interesting. And all sorts of insights into this passage come out from this.
Are you going to say something about Ittai the Gittite? Which is the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Said, why are you coming with us? Because he's only just been to see him, hasn't he? Only literally came the day before. And you're about to come with me and wander about with us wherever I go.
Oh yes, that's right. There's another
So-
thing here. I need to. That only seems to read a commentary. Actually, need to go back and read it again before we try and explain it to anybody else. But in this thing, they're both talking about kings, and in fact, in 2 consecutive sentences, David means one king, and Ittai means the other. So Ittai means the king, i.e. David, you are the king, and David saying go back and serve the king, i.e. Absalom, which is quite interesting, because he tells him to go back, doesn't he? And you're coming with us, go back and stay with the king. There we go. Then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, why are you also coming with us? Go back and stay with the king, for you're a friend. So in this point, David means King Absalom.
It's interesting, yeah.
And then Absalom says, and then Absalom replies, as the Lord lives, and as my Lord the king lives. Absalom says to the king, that's you, David.
Ittai says that,
Actually
yeah.
interesting. There's a lot of actually very interesting unpacking in this particular.
And I guess, this is very rich because if you begin to look at this in the New Testament perspective as David being the prefiguring of Christ, then you know, the king, the rejected king, the ones who are loyal to him, the ones who stay with him.
It's actually great. In fact, exactly that point is made in this commentary. I think it was
That's good.
brilliant.
Good to know.
Because that's right. Because I did some screenshots to try and you can't see it here. To try and remember what's actually said. But it is exactly that about sort of God, David being a sort of prefigure always for Christ, and then this foreigner staying with him against all.
This
all the
importance of the ark going back into the city as well. You know, carry the ark of God back to the city. If I find favour of the eyes of the Lord, He will bring me back and let me both see it. I mean, the ark was that sort of symbol of the covenant.
It was a symbol of the presence of God as well.
So you've got this sense of God.
And interesting,
God will bring me
David
back.
says the ark stays, the presence of God stays in Jerusalem, if you like. I'm the one who goes. God will be with me if He's with me, or God will be against me, whatever. But yeah.
And it's very interesting what you said, God will be with me if He needs me, He will be against me, whatever. It's actually really interesting, because that's very interesting in David's. He sort of resigns in his fate, isn't he, in a way. It's like God's plan is God's plan. I've got all sorts of baggage, some of it not so good, and I'll just take...
He's done it before.
I trust in
He's
God.
done it before, and he's done it right from being a shepherd boy.
Yeah.
He's trusted in God in that way, and what will be.
I just think probably we ought to
move on. Okay, yeah, let's go. There's a lot more actually. I recommend this thing, enduringword.com. If you go and check it out. There's also apparently one of David's Psalms 55, is written at this point as he leaves, and it says, "My heart is severely pained within me, and the terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling have come upon me."
Because remember, it's his son he's running from.
Yeah, amazing.
His son. So anyway, Luke,
Acts
chapter 9.
Yeah, he raises someone from the dead. That's amazing.
Peter is now, in this place of, he has the Holy Spirit, has this power of the Holy Spirit, doesn't he?
It's incredible.
So, he goes to Aeneas.
I didn't realise Peter did so much.
It's amazing. And then he heals Aeneas, and then he goes to Tabitha.
Except remember how the book of Acts begins to be written, where Luke says, in the beginning I talked about all that Jesus began to do and say. Now, this is what Jesus continues to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But through his people.
That is the amazing thing. There's that sort of feeling when Jesus went, it's like, okay, so the guy who did all the miracles and the raised people, then he's gone. But then suddenly it's like, well, hang on a moment, he's still very much here with us.
And astonishing things do happen. Maybe not as often as we would like, but these glimpses of the coming kingdom.
Right. It's true, exactly. Then the Peter has done something truly incredible.
And interesting, the result of each of these things, the healing of Aeneas and the raising of Tabitha, is this that all the people saw him and turned to the Lord in the first one, and in the second one, this became known, and many believed. So there's
It is amazing that sort of early Christian church time, isn't it? When Jesus has just left, and how it then carries on living and spreading really quickly.
Incredible.
And it is a really interesting time. And actually, there's all sorts of interesting commentary on this time, and various people obviously have lots of books about it. But because actually Christianity was increasing at an incredible rate.
It was at this time, and as it is in some parts of the world, even if in the West and even in other places, it's shrinking. But in other parts of the world, it is still growing, and you are starting to see amazing stuff happening. Anyway, it's lovely. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And
9 minutes. I did. Someone here talked too long, I think.
And I wonder who was.
I don't know.
Have a lovely day, and hope to see you tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.